welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of our daily magazine program, Cairo Local Time. And as usual, we, through this program, bring you the latest updates and the current events that are taking place in Egypt. Today we have a very special episode. As usual, we have a number of news updates, as well as a very important issue to discuss, which is Lionel Messi's expected one-day visit to Egypt and what he's going to be doing here. And the important cause that he's coming here for, which is, of course, the cure of hepatitis C. We're also going to be talking about how foreigners live in Egypt and what they carry on with their daily lives and how they see Egypt through their eyes. But if you want to join in and get to know more about what we're doing in our program and the latest updates, and if you want to share your inquiries, of course, and your comments, after this break, you get to know how can you connect with us through the different forms of social media. Welcome back again. Okay, let's take a look at what is heading the news here in Egypt for the last 24 hours. Of course, the Egyptian-Jordanian summit, which was held on Tuesday in Cairo, and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi would met with the visiting Jordanian King Abdullah II at the Al-Ittihadiyya Palace, where they have held summit talks. Ahead of the talks, President al-Sisi received Jordan's King Abdullah at Cairo's International Airport, and then there was an official reception ceremony which was held at the Presidential Palace. In the summit had covered on means of boosting bilateral relations. They've tackled the latest developments in the Middle East, efforts to put the Palestinian-Israeli peace talks back on track, and efforts to fight terrorism. Also in other news, a conference that has been gathering the heads of high and constitutional courts in Africa had concluded in Cairo on Tuesday, and the event was organized by Egypt's Higher Constitutional Court in cooperation with the Foreign Ministry's Agency for Cooperation and for Development. Addressing the event, Prime Minister Sharif Ismail, who had welcomed the attendees, and he said that the Constitutional Court proves that the law is prevailing in the country. Now, on the sidelines of this conference, Nile TV's correspondent Nada Ibrahim had held this exclusive interview with the head of the Nigerian Constitutional Court, Justice Bello Ishaq.
Very, very important, because when you meet to share experiences, to get best international practices that will in turn improve your own system, it makes the forum an excellent idea, just as it is now. There are over 26 countries here, African countries, each one with its own experiences on the manner and ways of addressing certain challenges in the judiciary. And by this exercise, each one of us, I believe, will go back better than he came, better informed, and then with new ideas on how to address common challenges that affect our various judiciaries. We have been talking about case management. We've been talking about the issues of conflicts that bedevil the African countries and globally, and the various regime in terms of legislation that are put in place to address these crimes, new emerging crimes, also how best to address corruption cases. This we have discussed, and we are still discussing, and many others. Well, there should be increased communication, so increased communication amongst the various judiciaries on how they have been handling such terrorism cases, how fast are the judiciaries able to decide to finality some of these cases. Are very crucial in this very forum, this very conference, and I think we are gaining a lot.
Also, in another very exciting news, the Barcelona's Argentine superstar Lionel Messi is visiting Egypt on Tuesday for a one-day visit to promote the country's tour and cure medical tourism campaign. The Tour and Cure campaign runs combined tourism and hepatitis C treatment travel packages for tourists who are visiting the country. And to shed more light on this rather very exciting visit, we are joined over the phone by the member of the Chamber of Tourism Companies, Mr. Mohammed Nazmi. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much.
This is indeed a very much awaited visit, and it was actually supposed to take place last week, but was postponed for a week's time. If you were to tell us about the significance and the importance of a star like Lionel Messi to visit Egypt, you know, to sort of raise awareness and speak on the behalf of those for hepatitis C cure, what can you tell us?
To realize that such a visit such a very hard a part of the world and will help the people so benefit and definitely will expect other people to help people in the very good. So it depends that
I have a problem with the phone call. I hope you can speak a bit louder, Mr. Mohammed, if you're still on the phone with me. But I would also want you to describe to us a little bit more about when you speak of medical tourism, what are you expecting from medical tourism in terms of tourists?
Yeah, the medical tourism, again, it's one issue or one target, because it's opened up the avenue, the business avenue to so many travelers to Egypt, like we have in Qusair and we have in Aswan as well. It's kind of healing that everybody is seeking right now, and I think you know, for 2010 and 2009, we have witnessed a lot of travelers seeking that issue or that target of medical tourism in Egypt, which of course it will increase the income of Egypt and open new sectors for travel in this area.
Yes, now there's definitely a program that Messi is going to be following during his very short trip to Cairo, and there's definitely a message that is supposed to be delivered out of his visit. So I'll together ask you to combine what that could be in a couple of, you know, pinpoints. What can you tell us?
But, you know, like I said, besides the medical reasons or the medical seeking that he is coming to Egypt, he's also showing the stability and the security in Egypt. And Egypt is a country that should be visited, you know, regardless what the people here or know from the media abroad. That's what we are facing. By having this star right here, it says that we are paying attention to all the medical care, you know,
Yes.
and of course for Egyptians, and of course we paying attention for security for such an important, famous player that is loved by all the people. So for him to come to Egypt, I think it's a big message to the world. Here we are. This is Egypt.
Yes, definitely, and it's going to be a very exciting trip. Of course, we have to wait to see what this trip's going to bring.
It will be. I mean, I tell you honestly, the arrangements that has been taking place by the Egyptian government and Egyptian security and the media is quite a lot. You know,
Wow. It's definitely going to be very overpacked because it's just a one-day's visit. But of course, definitely this is a good step and obviously a positive image as well.
Definitely.
Mr. Mohammed Nazmi, the member of the Chamber of Tourism Companies, we'd like to thank you very much for joining us on our program Cairo Local Time today for this update.
Thank you.
Waiting to see what is going to happen next during the rest of the day. And definitely this visit is going to echo on possibly the rest of the month, if not the rest of the year, because everybody, of course, does have, you know, Messi as part of his love for football. Let's go to the business front, because inflation is hiking, but it seems to be that it's going to be a temporary situation. So that is what is expected by economists, who are saying that it would be declining. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Egypt is expecting that the inflation hike will be temporary, and it will be followed by a decline in the coming period. Let's take a look at the report.
Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Egypt said that the inflation hike witnessed over the past few months is temporary, adding that it will decline in the coming period, which was the reason to maintain the basic interest rate unchanged. In a press release, the MPC stated that the Central Bank of Egypt had anticipated that wave and raised interest rate by 3% on the 3rd of November 2016 when it decided to liberalize the pound. It noted that looking ahead, annual inflation is expected to drop after transitional cost push effect subside and monthly inflation rates decline, supported by preemptive monetary policy actions. Furthermore, the negative contribution of the net export narrowed, nearly due to the recovery of exports, which registered its first positive contribution to real GDP growth since the Q2 2014-15, while the negative contribution of imports lessened. It noted that the data of the labor market showed that the unemployment rate narrowed to 12.4% in the second quarter 2016-17, continuing its downward trend after peaking at 13.4% in the second quarter of 2013-14. In its report, the Monetary Policy Committee reiterated its commitment to the price stability mandate and vowed to continue to closely monitor all economic and monetary developments. It said that it will not hesitate to adjust the key CBE rate to ensure price stability over the medium term.
Now the news is where we have the Italian delegation has been praising the security performances in Sharm el-Sheikh. And according to this news item, South Sinai Governor Khalid Foda had received an Italian delegation from the Italian-Egyptian Friendship Council, and which is making the exclusive visit, of course, to the touristic city of Sharm el-Sheikh for the sake of fostering bilateral relations between Egypt and Italy. The Italian delegation praised the security performances inside Sharm el-Sheikh's airport and the city, saying that the security system is more powerful compared to that in some European countries. The Italian delegation visit aims to exchange investments and projects between Egypt and Italy that will improve companies' performance inside both countries. Since we're talking about tourism that is seemingly going to be recovering very soon in Egypt, the Tourism Ministry had announced that there is an increase in the number of tourists that are visiting Egypt, and in what is seen as a sign of easing the pressure on this key sector. And experts did say that visitors from China, Japan and Ukraine account for the large part of this growth.
Tourists are slowly returning to Egypt, easing pressure on the key sector. Tourism Ministry spokesman Omni al-Husseini said that there is an increase in the number of tourists, noting that the situation was much better in January than in previous years. Visitors from China, Japan and Ukraine account for a large part of the growth. China's top public travel agency reported a 58% increase in tourists flying to Egypt compared with 2015. Egyptian Federation of Tourism chief Karim Mohsen said that there were more bookings between October 2016 and January 2017 than last year. He noted that there is an improvement, especially in cultural tourism in Cairo, Luxor and Aswan and key historical sites. Industry officials welcomed what they say was a remarkable improvement since October. In December 2016, more than 551,000 tourists visited Egypt compared to 440,000 the year before. Experts said that the number included a 30% increase in Ukrainian tourists and a 60% increase in visitors from China. The daily flights to Aswan, a southern city rich of ancient sites. Japan's travel agency said that the number of tourists heading to Egypt multiplied by 4 to 5 times last year. A spokesman for the Japan Association of Travel Agents said since charter flights from Japan to Egypt resumed in April 2016, they have been on average 80% full. Officials said that the expected resumption of Russian flights would boost the sector even further. More than 60% of tourists arriving in Sharm el-Sheikh by plane used to come from Britain or Russia. Other European countries such as Germany, France have registered a slight increase in reservations to Egypt. In early February, 4 other European countries, Denmark, Finland, Norway and Sweden, eased travel warnings against travel to South Sinai, where Sharm el-Sheikh and other resorts are situated.
All right, that was the latest news updates that we have for you that's been happening across Egypt for the past 24 hours. And you can, as you know, get connected with us through our different social media utilities for further information. Before we kick off with a very interesting interview for this afternoon, let's take a look at both the military magazine and the recent or the latest touristic magazine here on our program, Cairo Local Time.
في 16 من فبراير عام 1923 تم اكتشاف مقبرة توت عنخ آمون. حيث كان عالم الآثار هوارد كارتر يقوم بحفريات عند مدخل النفق المؤدي إلى قبر رمسيس السادس في وادي الملوك. لاحظ وجود قبو كبير واستمر في التنقيب إلى أن دخل الغرفة التي تضم ضريح توت عنخ آمون. كانت الغرفة تحتوي على صندوق خشبي.
The Abu Simbel temples in Aswan received 11,000 visitors in January, with an increase of 57% compared to the same period last year. Hussein Mahmoud, director of Abu Simbel Antiquities, said that the archaeological area received from various nationalities amounting to 11,000 visitors compared to about 7,000 in January 2016. He added that most of the visitors of the archaeological area and the province in general are from China as a result of the protocols of cooperation signed recently between Egypt and China. The total hotel capacity of the South Valley area is estimated at about 21,000 rooms, of which 17,000 rooms are in floating hotels, mostly in Luxor and Aswan. Aboud expects an increase in tourist traffic in Aswan in February, being the peak of the touristic season, coinciding with the European vacations. He added that the Ministry of Antiquities is preparing in collaboration with the Ministries of Tourism, Culture, Youth and Sports and Health, as well as the Governorate, to celebrate the biannual Sun Festival of Abu Simbel on the 21st of February, which is expected to attract more tourists this month. The Ministry of Tourism has allocated 25% of the promotional campaign of Egyptian touristic destinations to Luxor and Aswan in order to increase the tourist inflow in the current winter season. Hotel occupancy rates stabilized in Hurghada and Sharm el-Sheikh during the first week of January, settling at 45 to 50%, according to investors. Investors said that the two cities are considered to have the highest hotel occupancy rates over the past 20 days due to high booking rates at the beginning of December. Hisham Ali, head of the South Sinai Investors Association, said that reservations increased occupancy in Sharm el-Sheikh during the last period to 50%. The head of the Politician Investors Association believes that most guests are Egyptians because hotel offers attracted primarily Egyptian families to spend the Christmas holiday there. He expects an influx of foreign tourists to Sharm el-Sheikh during the coming months in light of the resumption of Germany's flight to the region, as well as a tourist influx from Eastern European countries, especially Poland and Ukraine. Tourism sector is optimistic about the Ministry of Civil Aviation's procedures that are being implemented at the Egyptian airports and the announcement of the return of Russian tourists to Egypt very soon.
Welcome back again. You're still joining us on our program, Cairo Local Time. Very much delighted to have a very, very lovely lady joining us in the studio today. Her name is Sabrina Crosina. She's a postgraduate student from Italy living in Cairo. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hi.
And I'm really excited, to know about foreigners who live here in Egypt. And then I get the first thing I ask them is, how long did it take you to settle down? Because I've moved a lot. And it usually takes 6 months to a year before I settle down. And I take food very seriously because I find it difficult, to merge around and get settled with the food and sleeping habits and so forth. Tell us about how long you've been here and what are you doing here?
Okay, I arrived here the first time in September 2015 for a project of my university for studying abroad, and I chose Cairo. Then I lived here till April. After that, I came back to Italy for a vacation, and I'm back again.
All right, that's very interesting. So right before we went on air, we were talking a little bit about what you do here, and you were talking about studying languages and Arabic culture.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting specialization, and it takes someone who really has the love for and passion for Arabic culture to study the language, which is very. I told you that my Arabic myself is not that good at all, but it's a very difficult language, we have to admit, and the culture as well. So, how about did you come to like the idea of this study?
Yeah, actually, I've always been fascinated by Arabic countries and Arabic culture, so I decided to study Arabic language and cultures at university in Italy, And after that, I decided to come back here again to write my master thesis. So I wanted to be in the field, you know.
But you do know that Egyptian culture is very different than
Yeah.
than any other Arab culture. So what do you like the most about Egypt?
About Egypt, I mean, actually, I like everything because I feel like I'm home, you know. But the most thing I like are the people. Because
You have noticed that there's a lot of similarities between Italians and Egyptians.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, everybody says that. Who've visited Italy and then moved into Cairo, or vice versa, would say that there's a lot of similarities in between both cultures and
Yeah.
nature. Since talking about food is very important, and I asked you the first thing: have you tried mulukhiyya? You know, have you
Yeah,
tried
for sure, I
the
tried
little
it.
pigeons? So
Yeah.
that's change in taste, not just you know in food, but I mean that's just metaphorically speaking, but change of environments. How did you cope with the language barrier for one instance, before anything else?
Yeah, for me, actually, it was a bit difficult at the beginning as I studied Arabic Fusha at university, and here for sure no one talks Arabic Fusha.
Not
But-
even Arabic.
No.
Foreign educated schools, not even Arabic.
But after
Trust me
that,
on that.
I learned a bit of Ammiya, Egyptian language, and it was much better because here not everyone talks English. But
You're doing a research, and that research is about marriage.
yeah,
Very interesting. That's why the first thing I asked you, what about marriage? Because I mean, you know, when you're talking about marriage in Arab societies, it's a totally different concept than marriage in
Europe
in Europe or foreign societies.
Yeah.
Let me ask you first, how about did you come to choose this topic? Was it out of, again, curiosity to know more about the culture of Arabs, or how did you
yeah.
choose and
Actually,
settle down?
I decided this topic because I read a book of a girl. She's a blogger called Ghada Abdelal, and she's talking about the problem of marriages, and she's still single at 32 years. So I was interested in this, and I decided to do some interviews to some girls and to ask them about this topic.
32 years old, and I mean, yeah, as an Arab, I understand that if you're 32 and you're not married, you're in big trouble, you know. But foreigners, you know, they take marriage, as I said, very differently, and marrying in an older age is actually what's common. I mean, maybe you would find it unusual if a young girl in her early 20s or as a
exactly.
teenager
Yeah.
would get to marry. So, what did you find interesting about the fact that this lady was 32 and not married? The fact that she's not married, or that she has no relationships in her life, or is it because marriage is, as I said, a different concept as an Arab? I mean, which area are you focusing on in your research?
Yeah, about this this thing that here it's not normal for a girl having relationship, you know, before marriage, and she said
Even if she does, it doesn't work here. You know, if it has to end, it's going to end. So it's not really, yeah, I mean, that's what you get to discover by experience. So I do understand that it's a very critical story as well, because, you know, here in Egypt, if you're talking about marriage in rural areas, that's actually a totally opposite direction than, I mean, maybe that lady you're talking about, she definitely must be educated, independent, responsible, working woman. But what usually happens in a country where, you know, you do have people working, living in rural areas and in different governorates, you don't. They do marry at a very younger age.
Yeah,
boys,
I know.
men and women.
Yeah.
Did you face that as a surprise, and how are you handling this?
Yeah, for me it's very strange because I'm 22 and while I was walking in a local place in Cairo, a woman stopped me and she told me, "Are you married?" And I told her, "Of course not," and she was like shocked. So that's why for me it's really strange, because as you said, in Europe it's not normal.
Yeah, well, she definitely, because she probably has a broom for you.
Yeah,
So you're pretty, you're not married?
She told her no.
Yeah, we do have some photos we can see, or we were seeing that you visited touristic sites here.
Yeah,
I mean,
a
this
lot.
is one photo that, you know, is very remarkable. This one kissing
The Sphinx.
the Sphinx and holding
Yeah.
the pyramid, and they're very good at doing it. But now that I know how the trick goes, you
Yeah.
know, when you go there. But it's very interesting when you see people, they love Egypt for the heritage, and then it's the people. And as an Arab, I won't know how to explain it, but maybe you, as a foreigner living in Egypt, you would explain what's the magic recipe in getting, you know, attached and falling in love with the whole entire package, as I said, here in Egypt?
Yeah, first for me, it's a country full of history. And second, as I said, the people are much different than European, in my opinion. Here you can walk in the street and find people smiling, and every time I had a trouble, they always had me in everything.
Very helpful people.
Yeah, and there is an Egyptian quote saying, the one who drinks from the Nile comes back again.
Yes, and
yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, for
it
me
is true. It's not a myth.
It's
true.
perfect.
Are you here alone or with your family? Because you mentioned of if you had any difficulties that you'd have people helping you. So I was just wondering, are you here alone? Do you have family members?
Yeah, I'm living here alone in a flat.
How did your parents take this? The fact that you're going to an Arab country and you're going to a, you know, a country where nobody, you know, is there. It's definitely very stressful for them. I'll be very interested to know how did you actually manage to persuade them to actually move here? I mean, what was the motto?
Yeah, honestly, for my dad, it was a bit difficult because, you know, the social media in Italy and all Europe saying that Egypt is not safe, there are terrorists and this stuff, but after that, he came here and he saw that it's not like this. It's very
safe. This is what everybody does. I remember that at the time where really it was very critical in the country and there was curfew, and then I would be outside in a cafe or something, and then people would call me in from abroad. Where are you? And I'm like, I'm outside in a cafe. They're like, are you sure you're in Egypt? I'm like, Egypt is very big, by the way. And what you see in media is not really what's happening in Egypt. So exactly. I do understand. But when you came here, you realized that the picture on real ground is very different.
Yeah.
It's very different. So what are you planning to do, I mean, once you're done with your research? What are your future plans?
Yeah, I would like to...
I hope you're not finding a group who's Egyptian and deciding to settle. I would love to, of course. I mean, but I hope that's not your motto.
No, I would like
You're still young. You still have like another 10 years before you can start thinking of it. Yeah.
I would like to work here because I would like to be a teacher, Italian teacher at university.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think this is a way to live together with the two cultures I love most.
So you'll be focusing more on the culture specialization.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me, how far have you reached with your research up until today? I mean, what are the recommendations that you came up with so far that was unexpected or, you know, very research speaking, because I'm a researcher, not following your research questions or your hypothesis?
You mean about
the research of marriage? I mean, what have you come up with at this point? What did you conclude so far?
So far, I concluded that, I mean, in Egypt, especially in rural areas, there is still this idea that a young woman, independent, not marry, it's not saying that well. I mean, it's
not going well.
Yeah.
It's not an easy life.
Yeah.
It's not an easy life anyway, being a woman in the first place, anywhere in the world. But yeah, I do agree with you on that. That's why I'm asking you also, how do you keep yourself busy apart from your research and the things you do? Now you have no families. I'm sure you've made friends here.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that everybody would love to make friends with you. You're a sweetheart, really. What kind of activities do you have? Do you like?
I love traveling, so in the weekend I go to Fayoum or visit these places.
I've never been to Fayoum before.
Really?
Maybe we should go there one day. Yeah. So what else do you do as an activity apart from, you know, eating, which is a very, very interesting habit you do here in Egypt? You know, so much cuisines everywhere that you would want to join
like all the young people here, I go to sit in a cafe or take a walk on the Nile or ride a felucca. Yeah, just to relax and have fun.
Let's go back again a little bit about friends. I mean, have you found it very easy to make really close, connected friends?
Actually, I have more Egyptian friends than European. I mean, I don't think it's strange because, as I said, Egyptian people are so helpful and kind, so it's easy to make friends here.
You've said, you know, for some of your activities you'd go to Fayoum, for instance. I've seen your pictures with the pyramids. So what is the closest place to your heart? Have you tried traveling outside Cairo for touristic sightseeing? Do you have a plan? If you do, what will be your first destination?
Yeah, I think the place I loved most is Dahab. Yeah, because you can find there like a peace of mind. It's really outside
there's
the
a
world.
lot of areas, by the way, here that very little people know about. And I don't know why, but sometimes it's not included in their even touristic sightseeing. And you should try going to Ras Shaitan, for instance.
Yeah,
it's
I went there.
Lovely place. It's a heaven on earth.
Yeah,
So
well,
there's
yeah.
Al Alamein as well, is very nice as well. So if I want to ask you again about how you find it very inspiring to deal with Egyptians on daily basis. I do understand that if you're doing, if you're here for a certain project or research or work, I understand how helpful people would be in that terms. But generally speaking, if you do have any inquiries with anything, even if it's an explanation language barrier, how do you overcome it? Who do you first go to search for help?
I don't know, but every time we could understand each other, and really, you are so kind. So it's never been.
It's never been a
difficult.
barrier. It's never
Yeah.
been a problem.
Yeah,
How do you see Egypt today? You've been here for a year.
yeah.
How do you see Egypt's transition in a year? What was it like, and what has it become?
For this year, I saw it's always the same. I mean, maybe because I'm here every day, so I don't notice the difference.
So when you go back to Italy and you sit with your family and you see your friends and your relatives, and if they ask you about Egypt, I mean, what are the things that would come to your mind that you tell them about this country?
Of course, I will tell everybody to come to Egypt and visit this beautiful country, because really it deserves the tourists. It deserves everything.
Taking the decision, I mean, people at some point in their life, whether for education, for job opportunities, or even temporary projects or something, they would have to move to another country. As I said, it takes them 6 months at least before they settle down completely. But it's a very difficult decision to actually consider moving in that country.
Yeah.
I have this feeling that you're on the verge of actually moving into this country, and I'm really inspired because I want to know to what extent are you really feeling that this is the place where you would want, to possibly spend the rest of your life in.
Yeah, maybe it's because I visited many countries in Europe, and I found them, everything there is perfect and clean and tidy, but I don't feel these feelings. I mean, I think Cairo has really something magic.
Let me tell you, because I've been living in many countries before, do you think that Cairo possibly is the only country in the world that has life?
No, for sure.
That has
not.
a soul?
Till now, yeah.
Yeah, there's something spectacularly magical about. So, if I'm going to ask you about how later on you would want to pursue in your career, what kind of opportunity? You said you want to be a teacher. So, if I were to ask you about how do you think you're going to be seeking these opportunities, when you do settle down, life changes a little bit in terms of your priorities and your agenda and so forth. Have you thought about it, or are you waiting for the time to come closer before you could really start putting on an agenda or a plan?
Yeah, I'm thinking to come here to live, actually, because I think even if I will be here for a long time before going to my home, I feel like it's my second country, so I don't think it will be.
Have you visited other Arab countries? Have you had that chance?
Yeah, I went to Morocco and Tunisia.
Oh, right. So how different is it than Morocco and Morocco and Tunisia are not very different as well, because they speak French. They have a very much of a French atmosphere kind of lifestyle over there. Morocco is a lovely country as well. How different is Egypt than any other country, whether it's Morocco and Tunisia or any other European country, in terms of daily life standards?
Well,
I mean, how easy is it? You know exactly what I'm talking about. If you want to get somewhere in terms of transportation, if you want to get something done. And this is a really very squeaky question, because it depends where you are in Egypt that you would have to face this kind of difficulty.
This is maybe the only thing that I hate here, and it's the traffic, of course, because some days you take 1 hour to go to a place that normally takes 15 minutes. So sometimes you get very stressed.
Yeah. But the country is surprising, because that same hour you can take it in 10 minutes and on a weekday. And you say, where did everybody go? I'm really glad that you're liking it here. I'm really also impressed that there's a lot of inspiration that you have for this country. I'm just a little bit wondering, about the research part of your stay. And I want to know more information from you of how did you find that marriage, issue here in Egypt? You told me that women would marry late, and then that would cause for them stress and frustration, while on the other hand, in other areas, they marry young. Right. Now that we've known that, what do you think are the problems? Do you think the problem is with the men in Egypt? Do you think the problem is economic problems? Do you think the problem is that there is this lack of transparency and clarity between both personalities when it comes to, understanding each other, going for this project, marriage project? What did you, and what else about marriage? I mean, is a divorce issue also coming up somewhere in your research that you'd like to discover? Second marriages, you do know that men marry here, and even if they don't marry, they do look at other women here. So is that also part of your research? I'm very interested to see how a foreigner views this issue here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's everything, a bit of everything you said, for sure, because in the rural areas and poor areas, girls cannot meet boys freely. I mean, so a lot of them marry without really knowing each other. So that's why there are also a lot of divorces, I think. And yeah, also because of the economic situation, it's not easy, because here
women are very here. And you do know, I don't know if it's like in the US and so forth, but if you do get divorced, you don't take half of it.
Yeah,
no. It doesn't go this way. Yeah, well, I would like to wish you the very best of luck, Sabrina. I hope that we get to meet each other soon. Maybe you can go to Fayoum together. And I wish you the best of luck in your research, because I take research very seriously. So I do hope that you can achieve some kind of recommendation that we would want to later relate to. And good luck with anything, of course, you do here. Thank you very much. Sabrina Crosina, postgraduate student who's from Italy, and she's living in Cairo. Thank you very much for joining us. And of course, that brings us to the end of our episode of the Cairo Local Time for today. Thank you very much for watching.